Violent Night stars David Harbour as a disgruntled Santa who, while visiting a mansion on his Christmas Eve run, gets caught in the middle of a hostage situation. Now it's up to him to kick some jingle bells in order to save a family and Christmas. Now, I was highly anticipating this movie when I first saw the trailer, and yeah, the concept, it's one we've all seen 100 times before. Die Hard, Cliffhanger, Con Air, Paul Blart, Mall Cop, you name it, we've seen it. But if the formula ain't broke, don't fix it. And Violent Night does use this familiar concept very well to deliver a fresh and unique experience with it. The action in this movie is an absolute blast. It's incredibly brutal. The movie lives up to its title, because this is an extremely violent movie, but the violence in this movie is shot very well and is actually really creative. I found a lot of it to be brilliant. They put a lot of thought into how they were going to present this violence and these kills on screen. The movie never forgets that it has a magical being such as Santa at its disposal, and the way that they incorporate the features that come along with Santa into the violence in this movie, I thought was brilliantly done. Whether it be using Santa's magic sack so he can endlessly look through presents until he finds one that he can use as a weapon, or the way that Santa uses the naughty and nice list to get information on the terrorists that are holding this family hostage, or the ability that Santa has to fit up a chimney when some people may not be able to do so, and that leads to a kill in this movie that I absolutely lost my mind over. I thought it was genius. And it's those attributes that they so clearly put a lot of thought into while developing the story of this movie, that even though this is a story that you've seen in hundreds of movies before it, it does stand out among the crowd. David Harbour is fantastic in this movie. His Santa's at a point in life where he's kind of burned out and tired of the job. He's fed up with the world and how greedy and consumerism it has become. He's essentially lost his love for the job and Christmas. And the way that Tommy Wirkola directs this movie, by the time that John Leguizamo and the rest of his goons show up to take this family hostage, the way that it is directed, you feel as if Santa himself has stepped into the wrong movie. And the movie is very self-aware with how ridiculous this situation is, that by doing so is able to provide a lot of humor into this situation as well. Because the idea of Santa of all people being the one that's brutally taking down these terrorists is a funny idea in and of itself, but the movie does give this particular Santa an unexpected backstory that, while I did feel it was a little bit forced into the narrative, it does explain how Santa is able to do the things he does to these guys, and also why jolly old Saint Nicholas is okay bashing people's brains in with a sledgehammer. All the while, he is communicating with one of the hostages, a little girl played by Leigh Brady, and that relationship is where the heart and soul of this movie really lies, because this movie could have just been an angry Santa Claus, these goons hitting him at the wrong place at the wrong time, and him just taking out his anger on these terrorists on Christmas Eve. But by adding this dynamic and this bond between Santa and this little girl into the movie, it gives Santa more of a motivation and a better understanding for us, the audience, as to why Santa is getting himself involved in this situation in the first place. And also, by adding this relationship between Santa and this little girl, she does kind of help this Santa find a new purpose in his life in a very unique and interesting way that also added a surprising amount of sweetness to this movie. Because even though this movie is full of brutal violence and brutal kills and just people getting massacred on Christmas Eve night, but by adding relationships and these emotions between these characters, there is a surprising amount of Christmas spirit and Christmas magic found in this movie that I was not expecting to feel. Despite how violent and brutal this movie can be, I actually did feel like I was watching a Christmas movie at times during this movie, and I was not expecting to get that feeling. The weakest aspect of this movie, I would say, would be the hostages themselves. They're kind of this dysfunctional rich family that are having quarrels on Christmas Eve. We're supposed to care about them. They're supposed to be the stakes. And I never really did care about any of the victims in the movie. They just came across as really over-the-top cartoony characters to me. They didn't feel like real people a lot of the time. Anytime the movie cut back to them, I just wanted to go back and see Santa killing fools. It also doesn't help that they're very stereotypical and characters that you've seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times in movies, and unlike Santa, they don't have a unique enough twist on them to make them interesting characters. And for that reason, they're the part of the movie that felt the most stale to me. In the end, guys, this is a Christmas gift that's wrapped in old reusable Christmas wrapping paper, but the gift inside is still pretty sweet. I'm seeing a lot of people online describe this as Die Hard meets Home Alone, and while I feel that's a little bit on the nose, it's definitely completely accurate. I mean, there's also a sequence in this movie that's pretty much the Home Alone booby trap sequence at the end of that movie, just done in real life and a lot more gory. If you've loved the trailers from this movie like I have, you're going to get everything that you're hoping to get out of this movie from what those trailers marketed. I, for one, had an absolute blast with this movie. I think it's replaced Die Hard as my favorite violent Christmas movie. I could definitely see myself revisiting this movie from here on out each and every holiday season. It was unique and fresh enough for me to have a really great time at the theater watching this. If you're into these kind of violent, gory, brutal movies as well, such as Die Hard and Con Air and all those other movies that I've named off the top, I think you could have a really great time with Violent Night as well. And for that reason, I have no problem giving Violent Night a solid recommend. But that's all my thoughts and opinions on Violent Night, guys. What did you guys think of Violent Night? Comment down below. Let me know all your thoughts and opinions. I want to hear all of them. All right, guys, if you like this video, if you like talking about movies, why don't you go on and click that subscribe button. Click the thumbs up button. It helps this channel out a lot. And I hope to talk to you guys again real soon.